Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Louise. My channel is Coffee Tea Paper. You can also find me on Instagram, and I have an Etsy store, and fingers in all the pies. Today I'm bringing another one of my journaling related books that I want to have a chat about. Now, this isn't so much a book as the title itself gives it away. Extraordinary Things to Cut Out and Collage by Rivan. This is one of the first of these style of books that I'm aware of to come out. Of course, since this one was released, there has been many similar ones with lots of different images and so forth. Now, I haven't actually purchased any further ones, and when I'm going through this book, and you'll have to excuse the condition it's in because it is a cutting up book, I will talk about the things that I like about it, the things that I'm not so fussed, and why I probably wouldn't buy another one of these books. First of all, as you can see, it has over 1,500 images, and there's a lovely collage here on the front using many of the images that are in the book. As usual, we'll have a look at about the author. Rivan is a contemporary British artist known for her surrealism meets pop art aesthetic, intertwining fragments of vintage ephemera, often with reference to film and TV, to spin bizarre and dreamlike tales. Her artwork has been exhibited in many galleries around the world, from Saatchi in London to Gallery Bach in Seoul, and ranges from large-scale commissions for hotel walls to limited edition prints, and has her website here, which is www.mariarivans.com, and she lives and works in Brighton in the UK. There's a lot of credits in the back because obviously this is a book of images, and images need to be able to be provided for use, and so this is all around the copyright and the source of the images and so forth. It's quite a large book, and it was published in 2020. You can see I've got bits and pieces falling out here. So here are the table of contents. There's an introduction, inspiration, tools and materials, building a collage, extraordinary things to create, directory of extraordinary things, and then here are the different groups of images with subheadings underneath: people, art and culture, technology, domestic life, built environment, natural world, repeat elements, large elements, scenes, pin-ups. The first thing I do like about this book is that there is no subject left uncovered. So it has a lot of any kind of theme and imagery relating to those themes within it. There's a nice introduction talking about Maria's introduction to collage herself. Here's some samples of her work to provide some inspiration, and of course her style is full-size collage, but something to keep in mind is the scale of her works. Talks about tools and materials, and as you would expect, scissors, cutting tools like scissors, craft knives, cutting mats, and then types of glue, and of course a background for putting things in place are part of the sets of materials she recommends. Here's an example of how she goes around building collage. Look, she's even got a brayer there just to smooth down the images. Some more examples. Oh, I've actually cut out something there to use. Whoops. And you'll soon be able to tell that most of the images in here are what you would refer to as vintage or even perhaps antique imagery, and that's most likely because the copyright on them has expired. A lot of black and white. Anatomy, statuary, things from famous artworks, comics. As you can see, I've sampled quite a few pages here, but not a lot. The food's very retro, and I'm not so keen on the colours that's involved with the food. But you'll start seeing as we get further into the book, I tend to dip into the pages a bit more. Funnily enough, not the architectural ones. Here's a nice page of botanical art. There's one these mushrooms have really had a good going over. Cacti, trees, leaves, another one that's being attacked, fruit, more mushrooms, animals, insects, a lot of monkeys, dogs, yucky things, more doggos, birds, a lot of birds, fish, a lot of sort of sea creatures, coral, shells, and then insects with butterflies. And here we get into repeat elements of feathers, lots of butterflies, flowers, or these are what, pansies, jewels, and then we get some larger scale images in the back, which are full page, and this is quite a big book. Fishbowl and some background scenes. I'll just flick through to the end just so you can see Elizabeth Taylor there. Oh, so beautiful. So as you can see, I have dipped into this book quite a lot, but I haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to the 1500 images. Now, I think the reason for this for me personally is the scale I tend to work in is around postcard size, you know, something a bit bigger than these journal cards. My journal size is a regular TN size. So you can see my page sizes are of this. And if you start comparing the scale of the images in here, we go to sort of more the floral elements that I enjoy. Look, trees and things. They actually take up quite a lot of space on the page. So for me, I have to be really careful about when I'm using these images because they are so large, many of them. So saying that, there are smaller ones. I've probably cut out most of the smaller ones if I'm perfectly honest, and I really do hunt around for the smaller size ones to use in my collage. And then there's simply a whole bunch of subjects that I'm not really interested in. There's you know, the anatomy, the food, as I said, a lot of this, like the transportation, comic book characters, face bits, what are they called? Facial features. A lot of retro heads, these sorts of very 1936 Olympic images in black and white. As I'm not a junk journaler, I find that there's just not a lot of things in this book that really appeal to me, and this is possibly one of the reasons why I wouldn't buy another one, is because I've still got so many in here and I'm not going to use a lot of them. And the other thing is, my pen pals and people who I share things with aren't really into a lot of these styles either, even if they are junk journalers. We like to put in our journals, we like to put in things that appeal to us or mean something to us, or that we find attractive or appealing. And for me in here, there's just a lot of images that don't really resonate with me. It's a bit like another sort of collage sticker book that I have, which you've probably seen, is the antiquarian sticker book, and I'm happy to talk about that one as well. But there's just not a lot of images in here that I would use. I probably, if I was going to buy a collage book in future, I mean, the thing is, when this one came out, it was pretty much one of the only ones on the market, and now that there are so many, just with particular things, like it might just be the natural world, or it might just be flowers, or it might just be butterflies, things like that. I would probably tend to look at them a bit more carefully, and I would also be very conscious of the scale of the images and the scale that I work at. That's just some things to think about if you're thinking about purchasing a collage book. The other thing is, there are so many, I guess, magazines, or you can go to op shops and things. The op shop I used to go to that has since closed down during the pandemic, it used to have a bin of books that were not in a condition to sell, but they didn't throw them out, and I used to just go and pick up those sorts of books in order to tear and cut up to create backgrounds. So that's something worth investigating as well. One thing I do like about this book, and I mean, I have it, so while I have it, I'm going to use it. I wouldn't ever get rid of it. I really like the paper. It's not completely matte, it's not glossy, it's just got a very low sheen on it. So it's quite nice to use, and the quality of the paper is thick enough that it takes glue well. It's comfortable to cut and fussy cut, and each of the images actually has a beigey kind of outline around it, which makes it really easy to cut out. So you can be incredibly particular and cut right up to the image border if you so desire, or it has this kind of neutral beigey buffer zone, which, if you're not so fast on getting it right to the edge, it just lends itself to blending with other elements nicely on your pages. And of course, you could also, if you're into junk journaling, a lot of junk journalers like to distress the edges of their images using ink, distress oxides, and so forth. It's one of those things. I'm glad I have it in my collection. Would I buy it again? Probably not. Probably should have waited until there was a few more specific kind of collections on the market, but it's one of those things, you just never know if it's going to be a trend that takes off or not to produce these sorts of books. Things to look out for: paper, making sure that they're only printed on one side. Make sure that the paper is to your taste, whether it's matte or glossy or just this sort of low sheen. That the images are actually ones that you're going to use. Like, if you think you're going to use 75% of the images in the book, I think that's enough to warranty it. I'm probably never going to use 75% of these images. And the other thing is just to think of the scale. What size do you like to work in? What size your journals? Do you send pen pal mail? So are your things around the A5 size? And just be mindful of that. Thank you for joining me today while we just had a chat about this book in my collection, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!